Hello. Oh, I like your background. Can you hear us okay? Oh, great. Great. Just have another minute and then we'll get started. I think we have everything we need. Okay, my name is Emily Bear. I am the wholesale sales manager here at Meadowbrook Words, and I'm here with Amber. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, my name is Amber and I am what we call a gourd beautician here at the farm. And that is basically what we're going to be doing tonight. I will put all of this kind of stuff together. It'll come to me either dyed or stained, and then I'll get to glue it all together and put the bows, the ears, the noses on. So it's a little bit what I do.
Yeah. Well, and I, as a wholesale manager, find all of the gourds homes. That is my job. But today I get to create one with you and with Amber. So this class is the Felix the Fox class, which is a design that we have in our catalog, but you get the chance to make your own. Would you like to go over the parts and pieces that we should have?
Yes, I can. So when you got your kit, you should have gotten a body, and a lot of the two pieces, the body and the head, should have the rubber bands on them. So that is just to keep the pieces together because they do come apart, just to forewarn you. But you can take those rubber bands off of the gourd. So yes, you should have a body and a head. And then this is going to be the tail of the fox, as you can see in the original here. That's what that is. And then you should have two ears, which are these things.
A teardrop, Helen.
Yeah. You should have one of these wooden like button type things for the nose. This here is just a paper wrapped wire. You should have one of those, and that's going to be for the tail, which I'll show you whenever we get to that point. You should have a glue container, which is going to be separate from your paints. Okay. So you should have your paints, but then your glue container should be separate. You should have two Q-tips. And then you should also have two paintbrushes, one smaller and one larger. Okay. I do want to say, if you have any napkins, a paper plate, like a bowl of water, if you want to get that now, I will do that. That way you have access to that whenever we need to like switch colors and stuff with the water. Okay. So I'll just give you a couple seconds here to get that if you need to.
And you shouldn't need too much water or any of that, right? What else do we have here that they might not have at home? Just baby wipes?
Yeah, I think just the baby wipes. Now what I will say is we don't have this in the kit here, but for whenever we go to do these eyes, I know some people like to use a Sharpie instead. It's just a little bit more sturdy than what this is going to be. And I will also say too, a lot of people like to use, can't think of the word, toothpick. There we go. Just in case they make a mess or whatever and they need a toothpick to kind of clean something out. So I do want to give you that option too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. I think we're good to get started.
Let's get started.
All right. So the first thing that I want to do is we're going to paint the red that you see on this, just because there's a lot of pieces, and that way by the time we're done with the one piece, it should be dry and we can go on to the next. So you'll want your paints. Okay. And you want the reds. So that's going to be off to the left side.
Okay.
And you're going to want your bigger paintbrush for this.
And which piece would you recommend that we start with?
So I'm going to start with the body. Okay. So you can go ahead and take that middle belly out and just lay that down. That's going to stay just the natural color. So as you see here on the original, that's just the gourd. So that we actually don't paint. Now, if you want to paint that, or if you want to paint it a different color, you're more than welcome to at any time. So we're going to start with this. And I also want to mention too, if you water down your paint a little bit, it'll go on a lot smoother and it'll dry faster.
Okay. So wet the brush before we put it in the paint.
Yes.
And Amber, is this just regular craft paint?
This is the acrylic paint.
Okay, perfect. You can use pretty much any paint on gourds. Anything that you can use on wood, you can also use on gourds. So we use this paint, but a lot of people will use whatever they have lying around the house, and that works just fine. We also use a lot of leather dyes for our designs as well, which gives you a really, really pretty finish.
And to hold the gourd, what I'm doing is I'm just sticking my fingers into where the belly goes, and I'm just holding it like that. Now you can hold it however you want, but just in case you're struggling a little bit.
Okay, and I watered down my paint quite a bit, and it almost has a stain-like effect, which is really, really cool, but you can do what you would like to do. Now, do you recommend going the whole way down on the base, Amber, or just keeping the base natural?
I would recommend going down to where you see the sanded part. So when you flip it over, you see like a lighter part on the gourd. So I would go down to that point, but you don't have to paint the bottom. Just because it is sitting, you won't see it. Now, if it would bother you that that's not painted, you're more than welcome to. Just be careful when you set your gourd back down though. You might get some whatever you're painting on the surface. And for the top where the dowel rod is, what I would say is just paint a little bit on the bottom, but you don't have to paint the whole dowel rod.
Okay. Amber, can you tell us a little bit about what a hardshell gourd is?
What a hardshell?
Yeah, what is a gourd?
A gourd is like a pumpkin, and it's a wood-like outer shell. So as you can see, as you're holding your gourd, if you like knock on it, it's very hard. And to get it to be really hard like that, we let it out in the fields over the winter, and that brings, they need the sunlight and the moisture to get it to harden like that.
So nature just does that job, and then we hand pick them out of the fields. When we do that, they are really, really gross and moldy, and we have to wash them really, really well before they're in any state like this.
Mm-hmm.
We are in towards the end of July right now, and we are actually, a lot of our people are out in the fields hand pollinating our gourds, and Amber would typically be doing that too, but she's about to have a baby.
Yes.
So it would be a little hard to get down and hunker down and take a Q-tip and pollinate one by one.
Yes, I would definitely be struggling, and with the heat lately would not be good.
Do you have any idea of how many gourds a person can pollinate in one night? How many, I guess, blossoms, not necessarily gourds.
So typically we try to strive for 1,000 every night.
Per person?
Yes, per person, and that's in 2 hours.
And that's a lot of, you have to imagine that they're vines close down to the ground like a pumpkin, and you're taking a Q-tip from blossom to blossom, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, not fit for a 9-month pregnant.
Yeah. I'm also going to suggest on the body here to paint a little bit inside of this, just because when we go to glue it or the belly into the gourd here, you will see a little bit of those edges, and it would bug me if I see natural. So if you want to paint that too, you can. But it's looking like I'm going to definitely do a second coat on this, but I'm going to let this first coat dry, and I'm going to move on to the head.
Okay.
So you want this portion of the head. So you have, let me show you here. So you have this head, and you take it apart, and you're going to want this back portion, not the pointy end.
So not the nose.
Right.
Okay.
And you'll just paint that whole thing the same color.
All right. And do we have to worry about any of the guts?
No, nope. Guts are okay. Even if they come out, don't worry about them.
I'm going to pick off a couple pieces that look like they're going to just fall off, but.
And again, with this, I'm just holding it underneath where that opening is on the bottom. And then when you get the outside painted, make sure you then go and paint the edges as well on this one too. Because again, you'll probably see it. And it's okay if you get the paint on your fingers, it will come off. Now, if you get the paint on your clothes, it will not out. So just be careful.
And how long have you been working at Meadowbrook?
So I've been here since 2017. I started out part-time on farm crew, and then they brought me in about a year into working farm crew part-time, and then I was here full-time in 2019. So I've been here full-time about 2 years almost.
And a lot has changed in those 2 years with the products and everything. What has been your favorite product to work on?
I would have to say between the reindeer and the moose. They are probably one of my favorites to work on.
And why?
They are really fun to work. I just think that there's lots that go into it, and it doesn't take me too long, and it's one of the simpler gourds, and so I'm able to do it pretty fast. So
we actually came out with a new moose this year. It will be live on the website here in the coming weeks, and I'm really excited about it. It's really, really neat. There is a preview photo of it available of it on the website, but it's just not available for purchase yet because Amber's still making them.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was going to do something while you kept working, but where would you like to go next?
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and do the tail next. Okay. But what I want us to do is because there's no good way to hold this while we paint it, I want to take this paper wrapped wire and put it in this hole that's down here. So you don't need any glue or anything, but you're just going to take this wire and shove it up into the hole here, and that'll just give us something to hold on to while we paint.
That's smart.
And you don't have to paint that wire. You won't see that at all whenever we go to put that in the gourd. So you can go ahead and put the first coat on this.
Okay.
I figured we would do one coat on everything first to give it time to dry, and then we'll go back and do another coat.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you familiar with Meadowbrook gourds? Yeah. We have some people that take our classes that are brand new to gourds altogether, and I hear that they can become quite addicting to craft.
Yes.
And I think this fall we're going to go back to having some of our classes. We'll continue to have Zoom classes, but also have classes in person, which we're very, very excited about. Okay, does it matter if I'm getting a little bit of paint on the paper wrapped wire? Because I'm being very messy. Okay, great.
No, that does not matter. That is a-okay. Because that's just going to get shoved into the back of the gourd here.
Okay, so this is kind of it's
yes.
Okay, it's going to hold on the tail. Got it.
Yep. And then you can just set your tail down, it'll dry and then we can fix that spot.
Okay.
And then the last thing that we have to do the first coat on are the two little ears. So as you see on here, they're the same color as the body and stuff. So you're more than welcome to paint them the same color, or you can let them paint them a different color or let them natural. I'm gonna go ahead and just paint them the same color.
I think I want to paint the back red and keep the inside natural.
Yeah. And these are just a little bit more tricky to paint. I'm just kind of putting it down on my paper plate and putting a coat on and holding it with my finger. It doesn't slide. But you can hold it in your hand, however you would like to do that. And I think just one coat on those is going to be good. So I'm going to paint the one side, and then we go back through and do 2 coats on everything else. I'll flip them and then paint the other side. So that's what I'm going to do now.
Is your second coat?
Yes.
Okay.
So once you get your first coat on all those pieces, you can work on doing second.
And do you have any recommendations for second coat? Should I keep it as thin as the first coat?
I would go a little thicker than the first coat.
Okay.
And as I'm doing the second coat, it's looking like it's covering a lot of the natural gourd. If you had natural gourd coming through your first coat, or if you liked that it looked kind of stained and you don't want to do that second coat, you do not have to.
Yeah, I think I like the look of the variant in color from the natural gourd. So I'm just doing another light coat to even out my first coat, which is turning out really nice.
Yeah, I do really like that. And I wouldn't worry about, there's a couple of holes in the gourds, like the holes that are drilled into them with the back of the body and then with the head. I wouldn't worry about getting the paint in them too much.
Now we of course don't have the supplies to send along in our little classes like this for these types of things, but gourds are very, very versatile in how you cut them and work with them. Some people actually carve them, so they remove the hardest outer layer with carving tools so that you can kind of work with the dimensions of the thickness of the shell. You can also wood burn them, and of course, like we do, we cut them, which our crafters make look very, very easy, but it is actually quite complicated. I have tried it and have failed.
Side note, you do not have to do 2 coats on the dowel rod or the inside of any of them.
So if you wanted to and you had a wood burner and you were feeling really ambitious, you wouldn't have to put that on with a Sharpie or with the paint that we've provided. You could wood burn it or try whatever you would like. A lot of the eyes that we place on our gourds are wood burned. I think we also have some painted, right?
Yes, we do have some painted, but we also have a lot that are wood burned.
Right, and then it provides a really nice finished look.
When we wood burn, it's also a lot easier to get it to be even. The circle to be like more of a perfect circle. And
do you wood burn the gourds too, Amber?
Yes, I do.
So what other tools do you use besides a wood burner in your finishing of the gourds?
That's a good question. So whenever I go to paint eyes, I actually got these really cool tools from, I think it was Michael's. I don't know what they're called, and I'm probably not using them how they're supposed to be used, but I use them for eyes because they are like a pencil, but they have a round ball on the end of them. And anyone that's crafters or that actually use them probably know what I'm talking about, and I don't know what they're called. But that's okay. So I use them for eyes to get the eyes really round. But we also use these Q-tips as well for eyes. We use toothpicks a lot in the back, especially whenever we go to like fleck an eye, which I'll explain what that is later because we're going to have to do that with our little fox here.
Okay.
We use a lot of drills to drill holes into the gourds. Trying to think of something else. It's hard to think of it whenever you're not like using it. So
I think you use a lot of hot glue guns.
Yes, we do. We use a lot of hot glue guns, and we use a lot of tacky glue as well to glue things together. Another thing that's pretty cool is we actually use caulking as well. We use
like house caulking.
I don't know if I would assume it's house caulking.
I'm sure they don't make special board caulk.
No.
Caulking.
We use gray and we also use black. So when you see our witches and stuff, we'll use like our black witches. We'll use a black caulk to glue them together.
Great. And that just what keeps the head more stable as you work?
Yeah, so a lot of our gourd pieces that have like the warty gourd, which have the little bumps on the sides of them, if we would use hot glue, it would just break off. Okay. So we have to use that caulking because it's just a little bit more sticky to hold it together.
Great.
Okay.
I think I'm with my parts.
Okay.
I'm moving forward.
Yeah. I think mine are pretty good too. Okay. A couple of spots here. But yeah. So you can go ahead and wash your paint out of that paintbrush. Just so it doesn't the paintbrush doesn't harden and get yucky, and it can stay pretty nice for you. Because you do get to keep these. All right. So I think the next thing that I want to do is paint the little nose.
Okay.
So you're just going to want to get your black paint out, and we'll use the same brush just because we don't really have, the little one is just a little too small to paint that whole button nose. So you're going to want the little wooden button for the nose, and you're just going to paint that whole thing black. And you don't really have to use any water for this. I would just dip it into the black paint and just go ahead and paint it.
All right, I think this is one. I hope the other ones, but I think this is one I'm going to put on the plate.
Yes. This is going to be a little tricky to paint, but it's going to be easier to paint it this way than it would if we glued it into the actual nose, because then it'll get on the gourd.
Now, do we use this little wooden button for our Felix? The one that's in the catalog?
Yes, we do.
And how do you paint them?
So what we'll do is we'll actually stick them on a sticky board, and then we'll have the men in the back just go ahead and spray.
Ah, so they're all sprayed. Because I was going to say, this would be very tedious to do for every single Felix.
Now the buttons that are dyed, we just dump a whole bunch of them into the dye and then put them on a tray, and then that's how we do that. So that's really easy too. Okay, so we'll just let that dry. I think just one little coat on that is okay. While that dries, let's go ahead and glue in the belly of our gourd here.
Because we're not going to paint it?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And just be careful, if you do have paint on your fingers, it will onto that belly because the belly is natural. So if you have like baby wipes or like a napkin or something that you can kind of just wipe your fingers off just in case there's something on them. That way it doesn't get on that. But I will say if you do have baby wipes too and you do get something on your gourd that you don't want on there, if you use a baby wipe to wipe it off, it does really work.
Yeah, they're very good at erasing small mistakes on gourds.
Yes.
The one cool thing about gourds is that they are not as porous as wood. So though you can use a lot of the same materials, the paint will not absorb as quickly. So you have a little bit more room to make error and fix it before it's permanent, which is really, really nice.
Yes. Okay. So you're going to want your glue, your little glue container. You're going to want your Q-tip and of course your little belly and the body. So what I'm going to have you do is take the body and take your Q-tip. The Q-tip you're going to dip into the glue here. And then you're going to rub glue on the inside of the gourd here. You don't need like a whole lot, and you could get away with doing just like a line on each side. But if you're worried about it falling out, you can go ahead and put glue around the whole thing. I think I'm just going to put glue around the whole thing, okay, just so it's secure. And don't worry about getting glue on the outside. It does dry clear because this is our tacky glue.
It is much thicker than, is this much thicker than normal tacky glue? Is this the super tacky glue?
I think it's just the normal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great. So once you get a good layer of that glue on, you'll just take your belly and put it right into the gourd. And it's cut perfectly so that it goes in perfect. And then if you have, like I said, if you have like glue seeping out the edges, you can go ahead and wipe that off or let it, it'll be okay. Just like that. Super cute.
Man, you're really fast at this. I'm working on it.
That's okay. I'll give you a couple minutes.
While we are waiting for me to put my glue on, I can tell you a little bit more about Meadowbrook gourds in case you are not familiar with us. We are the largest gourd farm and manufacturer in the world. We grow and craft handcrafted gourds that we sell all over the world. We sell both retail, like what you're seeing right now, but we also sell to stores, so which is my job. I sell our gourds to gift shops and garden centers all across the United States and even internationally. So you never know where you're going to walk in and find one of our products. In fact, my aunt was out on vacation in the South, I think North Carolina, and found our product, took a picture and was so excited. And I was like, yeah, of course we're there. Well, we have been doing this will be our 26th year. I started by a family, and we have a team of about 18 people who create all of the gourds that we have in our catalog, which I believe at this point is around 500 different products in each catalog.
I'm not sure what the actual numbers are, but I do believe that it's about that much.
Okay, so I have a little bit of beading of glue popping out because I did push it in there a little bit, and you're saying that's totally fine. It'll, yes. Okay, fantastic.
Yep, that'll dry just clear.
Fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome. While we have our glue out, I'm going to continue to glue some stuff together. Why don't we go ahead and glue our little nose in? My ears are still a little wet, so that would be another thing that I would want to do next. But let's do the little nose first. Okay. So all I'm going to do is take my glue and Q-tip again, and and I'm just going to put a glue around the inside here, just enough to tack up the nose. And there's no right way of putting nose in. So there's no like front, back.
Plop it in
goes
there.
in. Yep.
I don't think I have enough glue line. I don't do this every day, so a little bit slower than you.
That's okay. It helps me slow down for others that are a little slower.
All right.
Yep.
Easy enough. Fantastic.
Okay. Perfect. Yep. And then I just set mine down on the table. Over just like this so that the nose doesn't fall out as it's drying. So I think the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and put that tail in to the body.
Okay.
So we're just going to take it, leave the paper wrapped wire in that. You're going to find the hole in the back of your gourd here, and you're just going to shove that into the hole. And that's it.
Okay.
If you want to, because sometimes it might not be like the hole might just a slight bigger than mine, or vice versa. So if you want, I would take a little bit of glue actually first and put it on the edge of like around the hole of the tail here.
Okay.
Just because that portion's going to stick to the back of it.
Now, how much of the paper wrapped wire should we stick into the tail? Because I barely had it in there earlier. What did you say, about halfway, or how much did you place it?
So I probably did about halfway. Now I put mine in and I can't go any further in.
Okay.
So if yours goes the whole way in, I would leave some out. That way you can put it into the body, but you're going to shove the rest of it into the body here.
And she says, don't go gently, shove it in there.
Yep.
It helps to twist it, I'm finding.
Yes. Sometimes the paper wrapped wire gets like it frays, so it like starts, you can't really, but yeah. And you just want to push that down there, and then that's it. Now the original, it's off to the side. If you want that tail to be tilted at all, you're more than welcome to do that. And I would do that now because you did put a little glue on that. So if you want it tilted a little bit, I would do that.
Okay.
But it is off to the side of the head already. So if you don't want it to like completely stick out, I wouldn't tilt it too much.
I think they look cute tilted. So I think that's,
yeah, I tilted mine a little. Yeah. Great. And I do want to also note too, the body of this gourd, the original, has like a little bit other like texturized painting to it. So if you would want to do that texturized painting, it is still okay to do it now if you want to, and after we're done gluing it all together. And what I'm meaning is there's just other colors on it, and it just makes it look more realistic, like so.
And those colors have been provided, so you can leave it like this, like the original design, or you can go ahead and add some of the feathering techniques that maybe we can show you here to make it your own.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next, Amber?
All right. My ears look still wet, but I'm gonna head and just glue them anyway.
Okay.
So the top of the head, so this is going to be your head, the top is going to have those two holes that are really close together. You're going to find 3 holes in the head, but there's 2 on the top, and the one that's on the bottom is just slight bigger than the 2 on the
Which
top.
would fit on top of the dow here, just for reference of what happened.
Yes. So the only thing we need to do is put a little bit of glue into the hole here.
Okay.
And then I'll show you how we're going to put those ears in. And you don't need the glue the whole way around. You just need it on the back side of the hole.
Okay. Do that.
And then when you go to stick these in, you look at your ears. There are 2 different sides of them. There's a smoother side and there's like a bumpy side. You can choose what side is out, but typically we keep the bumpier side to the back. So when I fold this, because that's how we're going to have to put it in, I'm going to fold the smoother side in.
Okay.
You just fold it right in half.
Okay.
And then you shove the pointy end, or actually not the pointy end, because you want the point up. You want the rounder part to go into the hole.
Okay. Kind of round it out a little bit and then place it in the hole.
And it's not going to go in very far. When you put that into the hole, I would take your paintbrush and open that up a little bit and really.
So it's almost like a flower petal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I took my paintbrush in just to really get it to stick and touch the very back to glue it. And then I pushed this out the two sides.
Okay.
And you'll do that on both sides. And just be very careful. My head is really thin. The gourd itself is thin. So when you're like pushing them in and like holding the gourd, just be careful you don't like crush it in your hand.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing about gourds too. It might be really hard to see on camera, but we have the same product here, but different gourds. And mine is really thick, and I have a lot of the guts in mine, if you can see. Yeah, and hers is much thinner and cleaner.
Yeah.
So we work with what nature gives us.
Yes.
Which is part of the fun of it. They all have their own unique personalities.
Okay. So the next thing that I want to do is the eyes.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep these apart just because tacky glue takes a little bit to tack up, and I don't want us struggling with this falling apart whenever we're doing the eyes. But what I do want you to scratch that. I think I am going to have us glue it together. Because when you do eyes, you want to really center them. And in order for us to center these like really well, we need the ears. So that's why I changed my mind.
Okay.
So go ahead and glue that together. You're going to do it just like we did the belly, and you're going to put glue around the edges here of the painted part.
Okay.
With your Q-tip.
Sounds good.
And you don't have to put the glue the whole way around. But I would do, if you don't do it the whole way around, I would make sure you put it on both sides of the top at least, and then a little on the bottom. Just so that you get like a good bit of it tacked.
We also offer, like I said, we offer the Zoom classes, which right now, just due to summer, we're doing about one a month, but we typically do about 2 a month, as well as in-person classes. And if you are in the area or feel like traveling, if you really are having fun with these projects, we have create your own events here at the farm, where you can come and create. They're usually seasonal, so a fall and a spring and a winter, where you can create seasonal gourds with the help of our team. So people like Amber, who are gourd beauticians, and our crafters are there, and the crafters can even cut you know, special designs for you in certain cases. And it's a really neat and popular activity here on the farm. So that would be something that you could find information on our website, which is mbgourds.com, to be able to sign up for. But if you have fun with this, and you can, if you have the opportunity to come here, I would highly recommend them.
Yes,
They're super fun.
They are a lot of fun.
I have come as an attendee and I've worked them, and they're fun both ways.
Yes. All right. So you should have your head glued together, just like that. Okay. Now we're going to do the eyes. So this original here has those really fancy eyes, what I like to call them. And you're more than welcome to do that. I'm going to do that just so I can explain to you how to do them if you want to. But what I will tell you as well, if you take your other Q-tip and dip it in your black paint, you can get just a round circle eye. And you're more than welcome to do that. It's a lot easier, but whichever way you want to do it.
Now in our product, Amber, are the eyes to this wood burned?
Yes.
Okay. So a good way to replicate that would be to use the end of a paintbrush or the Q-tip or a toothpick. We're both struggling on the word toothpick today.
I know. You can use either. So you're going to get a much bigger circle with your Q-tip than you would with either of these paintbrushes, just because the back of the paintbrushes are smaller. Mm-hmm. But if you have a bigger paintbrush that has a bigger end, that'll show a bigger eye. But I would use your Q-tip.
Okay, I think that I like the other eye, so I'm going to do that one if you want to do the fancy eye. Yes. Because you're the professional.
Yes, I can do the fancy eye for sure. I really like the fancy eye, but it is tricky. So I am using my smaller paintbrush that we got and my black paint. So you're just going to dip the very tip. Oh, and I do want to say too, if you have a pencil at home, you could draw these eyes on first. Okay. That way, if you need to get them to be a little bit more even, you don't trust yourself to do, you can draw them on first. So that is a trick. I'm going to just freehand them and hope for the best.
We're very risky people here.
Yes. Okay. So my trick with these eyes, you want them to be pretty much on the inside of the ears. So a little bit on the inside. So as you look on this, I'm going to put the eyes right here. So it's just a little bit on the inside of the ear. It will come on probably in the middle of the ear on both sides, but that's how you're going to line it up. And you're just going to hold your gourd in the gourd head in your hand so that the two pieces don't come apart. And what I'm going to do first is the two half circles. So they're elongated half circles. So I'm going to do those first.
They're almost like rainbows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I'll show you. So I'll do the half circles and then I'll show you. And when you get those half circles on, what's really nice is if you think they need to be bigger, you can make them bigger. So I would start out making them a little bit smaller so that you can get them where you want them and even, and then make them bigger as you go. So those are my little half circles. And then you'll want to do your little line on the very bottom, and it's just like a little loop. And I'll show you what that looks like too.
So when you're doing that little, it's actually called a tilde. When you're doing that, you would want the flick to be at the end of the eye, the outer edge.
And again, if you do make your eye bigger, that flick on the outer edge, you can drag it out. So there we go. And then you'll just want to fill it in. I think once you fill it in too, you'll see if you need to make the eye a little bit bigger. And I'm thinking my eyes need to be a little bigger. And then you just go back and do the same thing you did, if you need to make them bigger. Okay.
You feel good about your eyes. Okay. Great. Now, how long do you think that'll take to dry before we can finish them off?
I don't think it'll take too long.
Great.
It should.
Okay. Yeah. So for my eye and me using the back of a paintbrush, do you have any recommendations other than I stick it in there in the paint and just dab it on? Is that good? Okay.
Yep, that's exactly what we do whenever we do, if we're not wood burning our eyes and we're using the back of a paintbrush or Q-tip, that's exactly how we do it. We just dip it in our paint and then dab it right onto the gourd.
That makes a perfect look. That's awesome.
It's really cool. And like I said, with these paintbrushes, it's going to be a little smaller of an eye.
That closer. So I just have 2 little circle dots.
Yep. And if you want it a little bigger, I would use the Q-tip to make that bigger. But it's up to you. These are super. Okay. So I'm going to let my head dry, or the little eyes. And I'm going to go back through and explain to you how to do the little technique on the sides to make it look a little bit more like fur, because you do have the colors to do that. So what I would do with that is you have the brown, and that's what is on the side of this. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. It just has a little bit of brown on it. Now you don't have to do that, but I am going to explain how you would do it. I would just take your larger paintbrush and your brown paint. Make sure you definitely wet your paintbrush. And I would dip the very top edge of that paintbrush in. Okay. I would not put a lot on. And I would even take some off on the plate too. Okay. You don't need a lot. And then all you'll want to do then is take your body and just put basically stripes on it.
But just be like natural and free with it, because it's nature.
Right. And not all fur looks the same. And you can turn your paintbrush up and down like this, or you can keep it fatter like this. However you want those little markings to be.
What's really cool about this is that I painted this to be very, very thin, almost like a dye. And I'm also painting this brown on as thin as I did the orange. And it's creating a really, really cool like rustic effect, which I like a lot. And any of my rogue paintbrush lines are now being covered, which is really cool. I think you could also play with mixing in we have another accent cream color there. I think you could also mix that in with this and get some really, really cool effects as well.
Yes, for sure. But what I will say is we are going to use that cream color just to put some other little marks on the gold here. So just be careful that you don't get a lot of color in that. That way you still have that natural cream color left. And you can go and put some of those lines on the tail as well. There is some on the original. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Great.
It's all good. Hey, there's nothing perfect in crafting gourds.
No.
They're not perfect, so you don't have to be perfect either. I think that's one of the fun things about crafting with gourds is that you have a blank canvas, but that blank canvas is from nature. And so it has its own quirks and you get to work with those.
Yes. All right. And if you want darker spots too, you're more than welcome to use that black and mix it in with the brown too, if you want some darker spots. So that's up to you. A lot of things that you can do. especially with the amount of colors we have provided. All right. So the next thing that I want us to do is these little white marks on the gourd here.
So the white little detailing.
Yes. So you are going to want your very small paintbrush,
okay,
and the cream color.
Great.
With that cream color, sometimes the paint separates in it with the water that's already mixed into that white. So I would take the back of one of your Q-tips and kind of just stir that around just in case it's separated. Mine was not separated, so yours probably is good, but just in case.
You never know what's going to happen in shipping.
Yes. Okay. So on the belly of the gourd here, there are 3 little markings. I'll hold it up here if you can see those. 2 on the side and then 1 on the top. Top as in where this point is. So there are actually 1 marking here, and then on the same side down a little bit further, like halfway in the belly, there's another mark, and it's just a line. So you're more than welcome to put these lines on if you want to. I'll show you again here of what they look like.
So they're just nice little accents to represent her.
Yes.
I don't think there's a wrong way to do this either. I think I'm following the squiggles of my gourd, but each of the gourd squiggles are going to be different too.
Yes. And they don't have to be even on both sides whenever you do them. So it's up to you if you want them even. I will make mine even because it'll bother me if it's not. But you don't have to. Great. All right. So we'll move on to the head.
Okay.
So you'll grab your head. Now my eyes are dry. So hopefully yours are too. They should be, if not like almost dry, but you can still do this part if it's not quite dry. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little mark on the little nose. So it's on the black part of the nose, and it's just off to the left side, and it's just cresting over that about between like the 1 and 2 o'clock as you see on a clock. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a little marking on the nose, and then I'll show you. You can see that just off to the right side.
Okay.
And then
Easy enough.
The next thing, so there's going to be 2 different ways to do the little fleck in the eye that I was talking about earlier. If you did the eyes this way, the way I did them, and it's just the more fancier way, you're going to put an actual line, and that's going to be again on the right side between 1 and 2 o'clock. If you did circles, you're going to put just a little dot at like 2 o'clock. Okay.
That is much easier than I thought it would be.
Yes. All right. Now, if you want more markings on your gourd, you're more than welcome to do that at this time. I'm not going to add any other ones on it. I think it looks good the way it is. The last thing we need to do is put the head on.
Okay.
I am going to have you put a little glue on it. You are more than welcome to not put any glue on where we're going to put it. Because it will stay, but if you go to pick it up by its head, it would probably fall off. So that's why I'm just going to tack it up a little bit So you need your glue and your Q-tip again.
I plan to place mine in my daughter's nursery, so we would want the head glued on so she doesn't.
Yes, I think
take it
that's
off.
where I'm planning to find too.
They're awesome nursery piece.
Yes. So to glue the head on, so you're just going to flip it over to where the hole is on the bottom.
Okay.
And again, like we did the tail, you're just going to put a little bit of glue on the very bottom. I would put some of the glue into the actual hole around the edge too, just so that it gets on the dowel rod a little bit too.
You don't have to be super neat, right?
Right. Yep. This is the very bottom.
And it dries clear.
Yes. I just dropped it again. And then you'll just stick it on. Sometimes you might have to take it and twist it a little bit on and put a little pressure.
Just make sure you don't pop out your face when you do that, because
Yes.
it would not be fully cured yet.
Right. And that head is already at a tilt the way we drilled it. So it's super cute. But if the head is tilted up too much, you can take it and push it down a little bit, but be very careful as you do that, that the front portion of the head doesn't pop out.
Wow, so it's actually pretty, there's enough give that you can really position the head how you would like it.
Yes.
That's really neat.
But that is it. That is all the pieces that we need to put together, and they are complete. Like I said, if there's anything that you want to do that's extra, you're more than welcome to do that, especially if you want to put like a little bow around its neck, you're more than welcome to, but this is
Yeah,
how.
so you could do a bow around its neck. You could wood burn, you could put your own design here on the belly. And also, because this is painted, you do not have to seal it with any sealers, but if you wanted to, you could use a polyacrylic, correct?
Yep.
And that is going to bring out the color. Now, a good example of that is, I believe this one has it is sprayed with the polyacrylic. So, and you can just get it at any hardware store, but you can tell the difference in the shine and how the colors pop more with something that is sealed. Again, you don't have to do it, but that is an option for finishing out your box. So do you have any other tips for our fox crafters at this time, Amber?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for crafting with us here today. If you have any questions beyond what we have covered here in this class, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to us at sales@mbgourds.com. I will be sending out the video recording tomorrow morning, and then you will have that available to you indefinitely, so that you can craft this at your leisure. We are so thankful that you came and crafted with us tonight, and we wish you a good night. Bye.
Bye.